Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of October 12th, 2014. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. This week we have got Venus and Mercury and the Sun traveling quite close together in the sign of Libra. Now, it's not uncommon for these planets to be traveling quite closely. Mercury and Venus are never more than 2 signs away from the Sun. And so these planets travel quite closely. And what I really find interesting about what's happening here is that these planets right now in Libra are speaking in harmony with Jupiter and speaking in harmony with Mars as well. And so what they are effectively doing here, because Jupiter and Mars are in a harmonious conversation called a trine, a supremely harmonious conversation. And these planets collecting together one by one, but really because they're so close together, kind of sharing energy, have been since late last week, will be throughout this week and into next week as well, are creating, by standing in the middle of these 2 planets, are creating what astrologers call a triangle of potential. So what that means is that these planets are activating that relationship between Mars and Jupiter, but adding elements of clarity, adding elements of reconsideration because Mercury is retrograde, and adding softness as well to the mix. So I look at this particular configuration, I do think all of us in at least one area of life, when we see this type of, it's not exactly a major configuration, but it is more than just a simple aspect to be happening here. It is considered a configuration that still is very special. It encourages us to actually not only recognize what blessings are being offered to us, but actually do the work so that they matter. This is an opportunity to see where a little bit of action and a little bit of clarity, a few steps forward, can actually make not just good things continue to happen, but even greater things take place. Now, we are right now in the middle of an eclipse period, what we call eclipse season, if you will. And so this is a time when mystics thought that the veils between the worlds were particularly thin, when having sort of spiritual understandings and realizations, connections and communions were that much more easy. Well, what's really great about this particular configuration is that it isn't just going to stay on that realm of having the idea, having the inspiration, but it is actually going to go a little bit deeper, where we are saying to ourselves, okay, I've had this idea. Wow, I see this clarity. I see what's changing for me. Now, what am I going to do about it? And that's when true magic is able to happen, when we're able to back up inspiration with action. That's really honoring the physical realm, honoring the fact that we're incarnated, and honoring whatever it is that the soul desires to do with this lifetime, which is ultimately what eclipses are about. They're about bringing you back on track with the higher intention of the soul. Now, I recently shared this also, and I do from time to time, but shared this on my fan page and on social media, that how far off you have gotten from that path will determine how dramatically you are brought back. But if you're already on that path where you're aware, where you're thinking about how you can constantly stay in that place of awareness so that you are fulfilling the deeper soul drives of your life, then you will find eclipses tend to be a time when you really feel a sense of reward, you feel a sense of clarity, you feel a lot of gratitude as well, because you can see how your life has actually been moving you in a very positive direction. If you haven't been listening too well, then it can be a little bit surprising, but it needn't be. And especially with this configuration supporting the very active sky that was taking place last week, it does suggest that we're making the absolute best of the awarenesses that are coming about. So essentially, this is what the main energy is to remember. Started last week into this week, the dominant vibration, and will continue into next week as well. I'll talk about it more then as well. But essentially, it is this, that in the sign of Libra, Mercury, the Sun, and Venus are dancing very closely together, and they are forming what is called a triangle of potential with Mars and Jupiter. So they're forming this little triangle and helping all of us to really bring our highest potential forward, develop our skills, develop our talents so that we can make the most of the supreme blessings that are trying to reach us now. And especially, as I spoke about last week, Grand Trine in fire, inspiring us to make some changes, bold, courageous, inspired changes towards greater happiness, towards greater faith. Well, this is a chance to get to do just that. You add to that being between eclipses. Wow, this really is a chance to see how our actions immediately are part of a divine plan, and a divine inspired plan at that. So because my sort of description of what's happening in the sky is kind of small this week, if you will, I'm so excited to be able to answer a few viewer questions here. So the first question actually comes from Denise, and she asked about being born under a Mercury retrograde. So if being born under a Mercury retrograde means that you experience Mercury retrograde periods differently. So this is not uncommon to be born under a Mercury retrograde. And I actually have created a separate video which should be published at the same time of this weekly video. So please do have a look at that. But really, so many of us, think about this, the fact that Mercury retrogrades for 3 weeks, 3 times, sometimes 4 times a year. That means a lot of us are born with Mercury retrograde. And actually, there are a lot of advantages, yes, advantages to being born under a Mercury retrograde. So I'm very happy to talk about that in its own video. But for this video, I do want to talk also about a message I received through my website. So Denise emailed me through my website. Thank you so much, Denise. And Susan emailed me through my website as well. And she said that she was born in the 60s. Born with what astrologers call a conjunction between Uranus and Pluto. So if you think back, whether or not you were around in the 60s or not, we all know that the 60s were a time of a lot of social change. And a huge symbol in the sky that indicated this was the fact that Uranus and Pluto were very close together, dancing very close together through most of the 60s, indicating these changes. And sort of heralding some of the big social movements, big social changes that were about to happen for us. So Susan asked and said that she in her own life has been experiencing this awakening of peaceful activism, as she called it, and wondered if the current Uranus and Pluto, what I've been calling the generation-defining conversation between Uranus and Pluto, if this square configuration has anything to do with the changes that she's experiencing in her life. And so the short answer is maybe. But really, for all of us, there are a few factors to take into consideration, especially if you're one of those people who's experiencing a lot of change in your life. Whether you are experiencing it in a way that pleases you, or whether you're experiencing it in a way that maybe feels a little jarring, which Uranus has a tendency to do. Uranus can be a jarring kind of energy. Pluto, in its own way, yes, because Pluto is about getting rid of the superfluous. So the more superfluous you have in your life, Pluto comes along, and the more you're going to experience that energy. But here's the thing. There are a couple of things I just want you to consider, and that is the fact that you want to look at, when we're looking at what's happening with Pluto in the sky, what's happening with Uranus in the sky as it relates to you and your life. You also want to think about how important is that energy to you based on your unique birth chart. So based on what was happening in the sky at the time of your birth, but also based on what is your rising sign, your moon sign, your sun sign. So if you know anything about your chart, you've had an astrologer look at your chart, and you are aware that Uranus is making, like, not even the two of them, not even if you were born in the 60s, but let's just say you weren't born in the 60s and you don't have these planets together. If we're just looking at Uranus or just looking at Pluto, how active, how many conversations is Uranus having with personal planets in your chart? So you want to look at, and I'm sorry to get a little technical here, I'll try to keep it really basic for those non-astrologers out there, but what you want to look at is Mercury, Sun, Moon, Venus, and Mars. These essentially are called the personal planets, and also the ascendant as well, the rising sign as well. Is Uranus speaking with a lot of these different placements? And especially is Uranus, for example, Uranus speaking in conversations that are maybe not so easy. So meaning in conversations that are oppositions or squares. That energy is going to be that much more important. So whenever Uranus moving around the sky does something, if you've got a very active Uranus in your chart, if you're strongly identified with that energy, then you are going to experience what's happening with Uranus now more than somebody else who maybe doesn't have as much of an active Uranus energy. This is true for Pluto as well. Also, as you may know, if you watch the weekly horoscopes, you know I like to say that your ruling planet is your representative in the sky. So you want to think about what is the ruling planet of your rising sign, your moon sign, and your sun sign. So Uranus is the ruling planet of Aquarius. If you've got a rising moon or sun in Aquarius, what Uranus does becomes that much more important for you. The ruling sign for Pluto is Scorpio. Now, here's the interesting thing also. When we look at the planets, if your sign is ruled by one of the transpersonal or outer planets, meaning Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto, then that energy, when those planets do something in the sky and it speaks to your particular birth chart in a way, either being the ruling planet of an important placement in your chart or is speaking to your unique birth chart in a certain way, you're going to feel that a lot more than you would, for example, the moon. And that's because these planets, the transpersonal outer planets, move slowly around the zodiac. So if you have a particular type of conversation of Pluto, for example, well, some people might never go through the type of conversation that Pluto is making to your unique birth chart because Pluto takes so long to go around the zodiac. It takes 260 years to go around the zodiac, and we as human beings don't live that long. So if Pluto's doing something in your chart, you're going to feel that a lot more than, say, the moon, because the moon goes around the zodiac every 28 and a half days. We all get used to experiencing conversations of the moon to our personal birth chart. So to answer your questions, it depends. Where exactly is this configuration? How tight, meaning how close are the planets in precision? And then how strongly identified are you with the energies of Uranus or Pluto? You put all that together, and that will speak to whether or not this configuration is speaking more poignantly to you. But all else being equal, if you are born with a strong conversation between Uranus and Pluto, like those born in the 60s, then yes, all else being equal, when Uranus and Pluto have conversations, you are likely going to identify with that energy. That energy is likely to speak to you and change you in significant ways more than perhaps someone else who is not born under a strong influence of these two planets. So that's a very simple way of putting it. But I hope that helps, Susan, and I hope that helps a lot of other people out there as well. I love your questions. I love your interactions. I love reading you guys online on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, nadiyashah.com. Please do continue reaching out, and I will continue to answer your questions as well. If your questions are a little bit more personal based on your unique situation, your birth chart, please do consider a personalized horoscope. But I truly am so grateful for this moment with you to be some small part of your sacred journey. And I do hope that these videos that I present online in some way provide you with an omen that remind you that the universe is indeed wise and loving, and that your life is guided by a very loving hand that we all get a glimpse of if we're open to it. And my hope is that these videos in some way bring a sense of inspiration and bring a sense of hope to your life as well. So how all this sky speaks to you in your sign is coming up right now. Hello, fabulous Aries. Your ruling planet Mars is active in the sky these days, has been since last week, continues into this week as well. I, for one, really like this energy for you because, as I spoke in the introduction, this triangle of potential that is taking place does suggest that your higher potential is coming forward as well. And so you're being encouraged to let go of what you don't need, embrace what could be great, get clear on what it is that brings joy into your life. And right now you are bringing in elements of love into the mix. Love into the mix. Jupiter is in a part of the sky that has to do with the feelings of love. And this cluster of planets, Sun, Venus, Mercury, in the part of the sky that have to do with partnership, you are reconsidering what love has been and what you want it to be in the future. And your understanding of the love you deserve is evolving. So continue to go along for that ride. You are being empowered through that as a result. Hello, fabulous Taurus. This week, we've got your ruling planet dancing with Mercury, dancing with the sun. Both of these planets are about clarity. They are about being honest with yourself, more deeply honest with yourself. Mercury retrograde is about the reconsiderations that are taking place as well. You bring these together, and it does suggest that matters that are very close to the heart, which is what Venus tends to represent for you, are coming to your awareness, and you are getting a sense of how to empower yourself to take action towards the things that you most desire to live and desire to experience. And there's an element here, as I've spoken about before, there's an element here that has to do with the day, that has to do with honoring the hours that you get in any given day, honoring your 24 hours. Making the most of them, utilizing them to your advantage, and making sure that you live them in a way that allows you to feel a sense of integrity. This is your chance to get clearer on what that is going to entail. But most of all, what I see here is a change in your understanding of what is the best use of your time, and honoring that insight. And a part of that best use of your time is going to involve love as well. I personally really like this energy for you because it does suggest that you are learning how to breathe love and bring love into the smallest moments of your life, making your entire experience that much more grand and that much more meaningful as well. Hello, fabulous Gemini. Your ruling planet right now traveling backwards in a part of the sky that has to do with romance. And now we've got this cluster in that part of the sky taking place for you with Venus there, the sun there as well. You are thinking about, on the one hand, some of you are going to be thinking about this from a perspective of love and joy. Others of you, though, I think are going to be thinking about this from the perspective of happiness, okay? What is it that is going to bring a sense of fulfillment to your life? What is it that's going to allow you to feel that you are living in a way that's going to help you to self-actualize, as we like to say? So you bring all this together, and it does suggest to me right now that you are being empowered with clarity into why you want what you want. And also you are being empowered by understanding where to best exert yourself so that you can experience more fulfillment, more happiness, and a greater sense of self-actualization as well. There's an element here of fertility, as I've spoken about before. So if there's anything that you are desiring to plant seeds in, anything that you are hoping will lead to a divine birth in your own life, whether that's an actual child or whether that is a project of sorts, you've got lots of cosmic support to really create something that you're really very proud of. Hello, fabulous Cancer. Well, right now we are in a period between eclipses. I spoke about this in the introduction, making this a very special time for you in particular. And the reason is because the moon is your ruling planet. Makes it a very special time for you. And this is a time when your greatest clarity is going to come through heart. Your greatest clarity is going to come through spirit, through allowing yourself to calm any questions and instead feel your way through. That is your best approach when we are in between eclipses. Having said that, you have got this cluster of energy right now building in a part of the sky for you that has to do with home. So that is going to be where your power is. That is going to be where your clarity is. That's going to be where you're really going to want to be reconsidering what you need to feel a sense of safety, to feel a sense of security as well. Based on the inspirations and successes of last week, you're carrying them into this week, and now the energy turns a lot more personal. The energy comes back to you, back to matters of heart, back to matters of security and safety. These are part of larger life lessons for you, spiritual lessons that you're here to fully explore. And you take huge leaps in that direction now by understanding that there's actually a lot you can do to help yourself feel more at home within your own body, within your own skin, yes, within your environment, and ultimately within the entire world as well. Hello, fabulous Leo. We have got the sun, your ruling planet, dancing with Venus and Mercury this week. And not only that, they are speaking with not only Mars, but also Jupiter in your sign as well. You put this together and it does suggest a time when you are having a lot of conversations, yes, but also you're feeling the love, okay? And you're getting messages of love and support as well. This is a time for you to be reconnecting with others, but I do think some of your most powerful reconnections are going to happen in a very spontaneous kind of way, with you just running into the right person at the right time and things just flowing together from there. What I also really like about this week for you is that with Jupiter being activated, you are coming to understand through some key conversations just what it is that you're hoping to achieve now and in the foreseeable future, where it is that you believe some of your greatest blessings are going to be. And also, here's the thing, because we've just had this eclipse, this lunar eclipse take place, I do think that there's an element here that speaks to you looking at what you no longer care about is what it comes down to. What it is that you're ready to let go, what it is you're ready to release, what it is that you don't want to carry into your future. All in all, really empowering conversations. Lots of clarity is on offer for you, and lots of conversations as well, especially those with whom you've already had connections with. You put this all together and it does suggest you being brought powerfully into alignment with a higher intention, an intention that resonates with a vision that fits who you are today, and a vision that actually fits something that is less limiting than what you thought you wanted before. Hello, fabulous Virgo. This week we have got your ruling planet Mercury dancing with the sun, dancing with Venus. Now that alone suggests good things, just as it sounds. It suggests clarity. It suggests love as well. Feelings of love, feelings of ease, feelings of joy, feelings of blessings as well, thanks to Venus there. You add to this the element that this is happening in a part of the sky for you that has to do with finances, that has to do with money. Now, I do think that this suggests, on the one hand, the fact that this configuration is speaking in harmony with Jupiter, in harmony with Mars, suggests opportunity. That's what it comes down to. This is what it spells to me clearly. There is financial opportunity right now. And if you are one of the few Virgos out there who is not experiencing this, who doesn't find their days all of a sudden getting busier, having to work more, or having more opportunity to actually do more as you like, then I would suggest that you really listen into what is happening with you on a deeper level, because if you are one of those few Virgos, then this likely the Mercury retrograde that is asking you to get honest with yourself about what you really want to do and where it is that you want to create greater opportunity for yourself, because that's ultimately how you're going to help yourself the most. So as I've shared, actually in my September newsletter, I shared that I remember when I was going through something in my chart that spoke to the beginning of something really big, the most immediate thing that happened seemed like a disappointment. It seemed like a frustration. It seemed like things were not going the way that I wanted. But then it turned out in the fullness of time. Now looking back, I see how really great things actually were taking place and did begin at that time. And I share this with you now because you really are in one of those places. You are in one of those times where really great things can transpire for you now, but it is about you recognizing it. And even if you're one of those people who isn't recognizing it, that's okay. In the fullness of time, I do think that you will look back at what was taking place right around now and see that really good things were happening for you that were about creating greater prosperity in your life, and that were about you understanding that you actually are worth a lot. You actually can ask for more from the universe, and the universe will respond with greater abundance. Hello, fabulous Libra. This week we have your ruling planet, Venus, dancing with the sun, dancing with Mercury, very close together in a cluster. Speaking in harmony with Mars, which is all about empowerment and energy, and Jupiter, which is about magnifying this energy. You add to it the fact that this configuration is taking place in your sign. And just as it sounds, it's a very important time for you. It's an important week for you as well. What we have taking place is these key planets are moving over the same path that Mars was moving over for much of this year. The first 7 months of the year, we had Mars walking the same path that is now being walked by Mercury, by Venus, and by the sun as well. And this is your chance to take the experiences you had the first 7 months of the year and now make the most of them. And you make the most of them by bringing a sense of love to your experiences, bringing a sense of clarity on a level of mind to what transpired in your life in the first 7 months. But also bringing an element of confidence, of that sense of who you are, a clearer sense of who you are and where it is that you are at your very best. Ultimately, Mars moving through your sign, yes, on one hand, it is about the smart use of your energy, but it's also about having a strong sense of self, being so connected to who you are and operating in the world from that place of self-knowledge. This is your chance to demonstrate it, but demonstrate it in a way that is soft, that is receptive, demonstrate it in a way that is clear, and demonstrate it in a way that has no doubt that you deserve to be exactly who you are and live from a place of that truth. Hello, fabulous Scorpio. This week we've got your ancient ruling planet, Mars, speaking in harmony with Mercury, Venus, and the sun. And I look at this configuration, I look at the fact that Mars is in a part of the sky for you that has to do with finances. And then we've got this configuration taking place in a part of the sky that has to do with what you're not aware of. It has to do with karma. It has to do with things coming full circle. It has to do with what other people are doing on your behalf without you knowing it. And this to me just suggests and spells, and the fact that Jupiter right now in a part of the sky that has to do with success, that has to do with ambition, that has to do with life purpose. All of these speaking together suggest to me a time when really you could experience absolute magic take place in your life, with some wonderful opportunities seeming to come really out of nowhere, just presenting themselves to you. It's a very strong possibility for you now. There is an element here also of you recognizing that if you do want to achieve some of those higher aims for your life, there may be one source of income that's going to have to transform if you're going to move towards greater abundance. And for some, that may mean acknowledging what you don't want to do anymore for the money, what isn't worth doing to you anymore. Now, do keep in mind, Mercury's retrograde. You might change your mind. And so it may not be the best time for you to just make a choice or make a decision, say, I'm done with this. However, it is a good time for you to reflect and for you to contemplate what you're feeling, who you really are, and what it is that you really want to do. And from that place, trust that things will fall into place to move you towards not only greater prosperity, but the type of prosperity that comes from living something that resonates as right with you. Hello, fabulous Sagittarius. This week we've got Mars continuing to move through your sign, speaking in harmony with a configuration between Mercury, the Sun, and Venus taking place in a part of the sky for you that has to do with friendship. It has to do with the alliances that you have, the groups that you belong to as well. And I do think that ultimately what this comes down to is socialness. That's what it says. It says social time, spending time with other people helps you get clear on who you are and what you want, helps you get clear on who they are as well. This really can be a time when you reconnect with friends that maybe you've lost contact with. And as part of that reconnection, come to see who you are that much more deeply and that much more differently as well. And you come to find a way to empower yourself as well. Now, here's what's really interesting to me as I look at the sky for you. I do remember how a few years back, we had Saturn moving through this very part of the sky. So between 2009 and 2012, we had Saturn moving through the same part of the sky. Earlier this year, we had Mars moving through an extended visit through the same part of the sky. This to me suggests that you are being asked for some of your time. At times it's felt like it's flowed a little bit easier than other times necessarily, but this is your time to really experience a coming together, if you will, in the sense that some of the challenges and difficulties that you might have had before, now it's like you know how to deal with other people that much more clearly and with that much more sense of who you really are and what it is that you really need from the people around you as well. And I think now you're going to get to demonstrate that in a way that harkens back to some of those earlier experiences when Saturn was in this part of the sky, but also when Mars was in this part of the sky as well. You are going to get to see how through the return of some people, why it was that you made the certain choices or had the certain feelings that you did, and why it is that you went forward the way that you did, whether towards them, but most likely not towards them, and how it is that it has actually ended up benefiting you. So this is a chance for you to affirm that you've made some of the right choices in the friendships that you've had in the past, and also that you know what it is that you truly need now in the friendships that are around you now and in the future. Hello, fabulous Capricorn. This week we've got this buildup of energy in the part of the sky for you that has to do with your career, has to do with success, has to do with you moving in a direction where you feel your life purpose is being achieved. Now, we've got Venus in this part of the sky. We've got Mercury in this part of the sky. We've got the Sun as well. I believe I spoke about this in the monthly horoscopes for you because there's an element here of you needing to return to what seemed like a sure thing before. So, you know, I'm always going to be honest with you. It does look like a part of you may have to come back to what efforts were done before, what maybe you thought was certain, what maybe you thought you were moving forward with. Now you've got to reconsider. And that reconsideration may come from you, where in the light of your recent experiences, you start to look at what you really want, what you're going for differently. Or it might actually come from other people as well, where their plans have changed. What you thought they wanted now comes back around and you go, oh, okay, I didn't realize that wasn't what you wanted. You want something different. And so you get a chance to think, do I want to redo this? Do I want to work with this person? Is this really part of where it is that I believe I'm going? This can be, for a lot of Capricorns out there, also another shot another shot at what it is that you really want and what you're going for. So it's almost as if you made a big pitch in the past, in the recent past, didn't seem to pan out as well as you would have liked. Now you get to tap into that energy with that much more clarity to actually make an additional pitch that's going to be a little bit more exact and seems to hit the mark that much more precisely. You are moving in a direction of greater success in every area of your life. Decide what you want, get clear on it, but be open to inspiration as well. You'll certainly find you're moving yourself in a direction that you like very much. Hello, fabulous Aquarius. This week we've got this cluster of planets in fellow air sign Libra. And this suggests opening yourself up to new information, to new places, to new understandings as well, but also ultimately to more of the world. I look at this configuration playing out and it suggests, on the one hand, being really inspired, whether it's being inspired by a place or a different way of looking at things, whether it's a philosophical system, a worldview. And it may actually be that you are inspired thanks to love, really, is what it comes down to. Whether that love is the personal kind, whether it's someone new who's come into your life or is now coming into your life, or whether it's somebody who's already there as well, acting as a conduit to you being exposed to more of the world than you were before. Or whether it is love in a more celestial sense, if you will, love that's a little more elevated, love in a sense of you getting clear of your vision of what a life you love would look like and what you have to do to get there. It does look like a lot of things are coming together now to help you to be more open than you have before. Consider what it is that you believe and consider your place in the world. And from these considerations, you are actually going to find yourself being put on a path where you're putting into place some truly wonderful things that are going to help you achieve even greater things just a little bit further down the road. The energy is going to change very soon. Right now, the energy is about vision and the energy is about inspiration. Trust that. Let that come forward in every area of life, on the level of mind, on a level of heart as well, on a level of love as well. And you'll find yourself led to a clearer vision of where you're going. And from there, you'll find yourself able to manifest it that much more easily. Hello, fabulous Pisces. This week we have got your ancient ruling planet, Jupiter, speaking in harmony with this configuration that's taking place, the dominant configuration right now, which is Sun, Mercury, and Venus, in a part of the sky for you that has to do with money. It has to do with accessing resources, whether that's financial resources or emotional resources as well. And to me, this suggests an easy way of things that you want coming together, you being able to attract the things that you want in an easy way as well. And so what I mean by that is, I think one of the spiritual lessons of your sign has to do with trusting the path of least resistance. Being open to wisdom and seeing the wisdom in everyone and everything, yes, seeing the connection between everyone and everything, but seeing how the smallest moments of your life are actually part of a grand tapestry and hold their own perfection. And that there's no need to fight for what you want. Rather, when you come from a place of acceptance and being open on a level of spirit, what you want is that much more easier to manifest, has a way of flowing into your life, and to focus more on you and your sense of spiritual balance. I do think that this is part of the higher lesson, the higher spiritual lesson of your sign. And this week we have got this configuration taking place, suggesting to me that if you can understand, and you will come to understand more clearly, how putting yourself in that place actually helps manifest greater prosperity for you in a way that can be very easy, in a way that can be very path of least resistance. If you can trust that, you are going to find yourself attracting some really wonderful things now, things that you actually need, whether it's financially or emotionally. You're going to find yourself being very well cared for by a very loving universe. Well, thank you so much to all signs out there. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.